But is it cool? Is it tough? Do I look tough? What is the definition of tough? I talk in another presentation about science and what I believe is a natural way of bringing cooling back to the northern ice poles. And in that I talk about my definition of cool. And it's that presentation that I've always thought of as cool. So tough, I may have a different definition of tough or perspective on tough, but I'm going to share you mine. Is this what all equals that? If you want to be tough per se, I learned or think my perspective is there's a feeling of defense within. There's something within you it's driving it or someone. It could be like for me, fighting neural pain. That's the way I look at tough, and that's not against anybody or out for anybody. It's me, something I'm fighting within, a fight of autism, the neural structure. But for others, it could be a parent, fellow classmates, bullies, siblings, teachers. I mean, I think everybody has these inside to a degree, or pain, or whatever it is. It's a fight. Is that what makes you tough, is your fight? I'll share one that doesn't include my childhood, work, education, or our community, but a fight. I couldn't win. It wasn't tough enough. I lost my faith. I couldn't make sense of why our firstborn wasn't in my presence or in my hands, or why I couldn't, why I kiss goodbye, towel over, see you later. I mean, and I was on serotonin inhibiting meds that we know serotonin's affected with the neuro. I was on a mix of that. It led me in a spiral to the grave, let's just say that. And it was my son's grave, actually. I had never been there in 5 years, and it was on his 5th birthday. I decided to go there. Don't tell anybody. By the time I got to the next city where it was, I was followed, surrounded, in the presence of a lot of police. And I was in my little race car. Like I said, I had lost my faith on meds that I shouldn't have been on. At the end of it, I was handed over to my pastor's watch. Spent the next few days, therapy, no meds, kind of like a fresh start. But through my son, in that time, I needed to feel a different kind of pain. Tough isn't what I wear on my skin. Pain. Because I needed to feel something else besides what I mentally couldn't make sense of and was spiraling in my head out of control. I don't look at that as tough. I pushed some joints, tendons, ligaments past their limits. That's not tough. I didn't know I was doing it until it was too late. And I don't look at my scars as being tough. I look at them as now I have to do something in order to even tattoo over them, or they're kind of ugly. I don't prefer to have the scars, and I got big ones. I don't look at them as tough. And I don't look at myself as tough, because if I was tough, why am I so broken? I have a different perspective on that. But am I lost? Only from the past? Mentally and physically running with pain, with no insight? Living, not being able to express signs of pain or minimize your crying? Maybe that's what becomes the fuel that fuels that fight that you're fighting inside for. But with that, what I do know is there's more to life. It's hard, but I reached out. I got the opportunity. Somebody intervened behind me that I didn't know was, and saved me. Reached out to me. Reach out to someone. Understand, though, that the person next to you, they could be eating the same exact pain I've eaten. They could carry it worse. I mean, I know what my fight is within me and what I fight for neuro pain, sensitivity, and what I have to do. But that doesn't mean I know that the guy next to me has it worse or better than me. All I know is my fight. Again, somebody next to you could have it worse. And if you think you've got it the worst, there's always worst. There's always worst. But with best and worst, I do still get distracted. See, there you go. I did get one, and it does. It takes the train of thought of the 10 words I need out of here to talk, and 10 words. These aren't for memorization and whatnot. Most that know me know that I can talk very fast when I get stimulated by sensories. When I'm not, I can carry on, but this is to help me set that pace. Otherwise, I'm done. And when I present something like this to, elementary or junior high or high school, the vocabulary changes. It's not a septum, it's a plugged nose. And it's shortened, condensed. It's not this to read from, it's to set. So something annoys, anything comes, I hopefully can, get back to task. It's a lot easier now. But with that distraction, I have one that's all the time, not just my wife. I said in the introduction, my wife is my number one distraction because she's my only attraction. She comes in the room and I zoom. It's like hyper focus straight to your number one attraction. That's how it is. But with that, I'll have another one. All this stuff right here that you see is what I don't have. I don't have a great imagination to come up. I can't hardly draw a stick figure. I can turbos, time. That, yeah, no problem. I understand to a comfort. But this stuff, distractions. I have to think. First, you have to thank the outdoorsman hunter, but it's Mackenzie and her creativity and abilities. But it's people like me and my ideas that can put her in a frenzy. If she's in a frenzy, distraction. Doesn't mean it's not negative. It's a distraction. And if you have an interest in something you aren't able to do, hard to then focus on maybe reading a book or something around you. That's why they try and accommodate and focus on autism to stimulate what naturally attracts or naturally distracts, whatever it is. I got distraction, attraction, wife, and I have distraction based on things I am unable to do. Distractions. Anyways, so let's get back. We were talking about tough, worst, and that whole worst. But you know what's the polar opposite of worst? The best. You can't talk about the worst without talking about the best, right? I best car, maybe, 1,000 horsepower. Yeah, right. There's way better out there. Or way higher. It depends on what you want. What do you use it for? That's what I look at it. But what is the best? If we are the best, who do we learn from then? The person ahead of us, like a YouTube mechanic? I do it. If we were the best, everyone behind you is studying you. They will always find a way to gain pretty much an advantage to a degree because they're studying you. Who do you learn from if you're the best? I've never heard of the ultimate best one coach, but what I do know, or what I've become to hear, is GOAT, greatest of all time, of the next generations. I'm a 90s Kenosha kid. GOAT. Well, Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jordan. That was kind of my era, and that's what we grew up. Didn't know anybody else that collected that many cards, jerseys, you name it, of one particular player. That 90s into 2000, that's late 80s on in. Born the same year, rookie, Michael Jordan. I like Michael Jordan. But if you want to be the best, like me, I like math. I couldn't get a math degree, so instead studied from Harvard's best, what they left based on previous journals and whatnot. You have access to it. But if you settle from learning at your best, your competitors will always study you. They'll always have an advantage. To me, I just look at it and say, be humble and be a good sport. But the best, what about that one kid most people usually know that has to be first place all the time, or like it's a major collapse? Do we know why, all of a sudden, first place, he's over, and then, whatever, behavior? Well, there are some hyper-focus. I'm building a derby car. I have literally done immense amount of research down to every degree of this thing, and have looked at it for 100 times longer than most. And then we go right to race day, and we're standing there kind of like I was in that previous presentation, but without repairs. Think of a kid jumping up and down. He's just flying. He's ready to race, and he's all about this race, and he's hyped up for something. First place, right? The best. And then when it doesn't go as planned, it's that mental collapse. But you know what? What we do know is a lot of kids that are like that, it's because that Nero was still on high. It was on launch and go from the point, I would say, that car finished. Because it was brain stimulation that was running that Nero to get that car done. Immense. But then it becomes now applying it, which is a variable we can't control. So now it's a bunch of unknowns spinning around in your head, and it's just hyped up on radar, and then it doesn't go as planned. Everything you did back here, it's almost like a slingshot straight into your head, and it explodes. How do you deal with that? How do you, therapy, understanding, sensing that Nero, there's things that we have learned. But notice with that, we talked from tough to broken, first to last place. It's kind of like a magnet. It has two poles, right? North and south. I want to put a thermostat on the North Pole without disrupting biodiversity. But polar. Wake up taking a vacation For me, North Pole vacation though, north. But on the other hand, somebody might wake up on that same spiral like I did to the grave, but maybe just to a dark hole. The day is just not a bright day in there, say not a bright sunny day, happy for them. Or it might go from, laughing at breakfast, and then we're out of apples and crying. There's tough, magnet, we talk about a lot of these things within here that refer to this, a lot of these, the behaviors that follow with them. But weather. Weather. That is the reason why I made that Cool Earth presentation that me and my son and others have really tried a lot to try and figure out. But that weather, the reason I wanted to understand air, heating, cooling, that stuff is because the air, the water density, cold winter days, thunderstorms, it affects our neural pain especially. My son goes from Sonic to the couch for an entire day. It's like you're squeezing your knees and like squeezing them. Almost, for me, I couldn't cry, but for most, or some would be crying. And I like root canal pain in the mouth, but not with one particular, you can't find it. It's just kind of all over. Neuro-Sensitivity. I hate high pitches, and I can hear pitches that others cannot. But I'm not the only one. There's others along with me that hear the same pitch. So now I know I'm not crazy. I'm not hearing things. Other people hear them. Or we're all crazy because we can hear it. I don't know the riddle. But I can't handle the high pitches. I figured out kind of a frequency of pitches that really, because those ones, when I hear them, my spine actually twists. I jolt. I've just become responsive and used to it and just know that it's coming and brace myself. But if you knew you were doing that to somebody on purpose, to hurt somebody or thought it was a joke, would you do it again? Now that you know some of us respond that way? It's not a joke of watching a kid twist or twitch, If you do think it's a joke, I hate to tell you, but it's you that might need some help. Not to say I don't. I never said I don't need help. I'm just willing to ask for it, willing to learn. And I trust doctors and their profession in their guidance. I haven't been led astray in that aspect of my life. Perspectives, right? This is the only hard part, or one that people that would raise their hands could raise their hands. People that don't want to raise their hands might be raising them inside. But I would ask the question, how many have never had, or what they felt was a genuine hug from their mother or their father? Because I'd come give you a hug. But how many? Because maybe some of us, if from an extreme logic, might say, well, if you love me, why would you do this? But, and some people hold true to that, perspective. But it's a definition that most probably can't grasp. I hope you can't grasp it. I mean, I I hope you don't understand being disciplined for somebody else's mistakes. I hope you don't understand being willing to do time for a crime when you didn't steal the dime. Me neither. But we could live the life, though, blaming the failures of the past, or we can share what we've learned, in our life, in society, because now we have a better understanding of behaviors to a degree of autism. 30 years ago, us dads, they didn't know what they know now. You can only live life based upon what you know. You don't wake up, with, at least I don't believe you do. But, like that fight I was talking about inside, I got a lot of fight left in me. It's just, I'm broken, right? But you know what? That don't matter. This part where I would be preaching to the kids, the staff, elementary. It begins with those teachers and staff. Education led by demonstration. I didn't wake up one day and with imaginary ideas in a golden glass. I was almost close to, I think, the smallest kid in my class. I didn't get an award or voted on a board. I just really was bored. I was. That's what I felt like. I was bored. But if I needed to escape and find a place to be silent, I would read, because I couldn't read around any noises, anything going on. Well, read what's available and nobody else touches. 1992 encyclopedia said 3 times over in my head. My grandfather said, it was a wise man, my grandfather, who had told me, cure your mental fight and home life. Read until your mind is bled. Be resourceful with your time. Try to avoid crimes. I read it. I dread it. Wish I could remember it all. But instead, head injuries from objects. My memory is not the same, like this late in the game per se. But I remember I have a disability. It's not just an ability. For us to dominate or focus, we have to be accommodated. There's reasons why pain, emotions, feelings of insane, and sensations do not penetrate to some of our brains. They know that, but it's a disability. I have a disability. It's a neurological disorder, like sonic speed. It's on high RPM, ready to order, now with better timing and better focus. There's no gain in nerve pain there's no gain in the nerve pain that I strain. It strains my eyes when I wake up in the morning, stretch before I can relieve the pressure, and then start moving through the day and get through the rest of everything else with injuries. Some of those neural feelings do and do not register in the chest of unrest brain of mine. We have to learn them in time. We do. We have to learn them. So imagine that. Think about that. We have to learn everybody except for the fraction of us. And for me, just to understand and just to accept and understand the distraction. And not so much anymore, but might also explain something